Okay, everyone, welcome back. I think hopefully this week will be the potentially last run that I've been doing with my XAML test library. I've been poking at it hard this last week to try and get it wrapped up. Just wanting to get that 1.0 release done and out the door. There's a few issues I was hoping to actually write some tests for in the material design library, and once I started working on XAML test, I just couldn't stop, so I kept going. So, for those people who may be a little unfamiliar with the library, XAML Test is a testing library that I built with the intent of being able to go through and test XAML styles and templates. The previous tools that are out there for UI testing are really designed to test the interaction layer of an application and not the individual components, which is fine for UI testing of apps. But if you're building a theme library, it is, in my opinion, very insufficient way of doing testing. So I built out my own tester, and that's what XAML test is. So I can pop over and show the code. And for those people interested, there is the link in the chat of where it goes. And once again, my chat is off. My music's off. Let's fix that. Okay. And why is my... Let's see. Whoop. That button. That button. Why are my links cut off? Oh, come on. This is just gonna bother me now, isn't it? Let's see here. I might have to go play with this more. It's a never-ending stream of trying to get this stuff configured and working correctly. So I'll circle back to that. Regardless, you can see the link here, and if you hunt for XAML test, it'll be the first one that shows up. I've been logging issues around the stuff that I want to have in for my 1.0 release, and so the intent here is that I get it down to where I need it to be with just kind of the minimum viable product done. So last week we had left off fighting with source generators, and the good news is that is now in and working. So let me get this guy fired up, and I will walk through what I've been poking at for the last little bit on here, and then we'll see if we can get some of these items wrapped up and done, because it would be great to have them actually finished. Come on, Visual Studio. You can do it. I just ran a Windows update and have had no end of problems. Some of my hardware stopped working, which is all kinds of exciting. I'm not convinced it was the update. It almost is acting like the reboot. Something happened weird, and it blew up. So, okay. So inside of the library, we've got two C# source generators that we built out. We built out the XAML test generator 2 weeks ago, and then the unit test generator last week. So the XAML test generator is all around being able to have stuff like this, a typed visual element, basically building out extension methods for every possible property that would exist, in this case on list box items, so that there's you get nice IntelliSense when it comes time to actually do the completion here. The unit test generator, since I figured, okay, I can generate these extension methods, how do I know that these extension methods actually work? Can I send the data back and forth between the WPF app being tested and my unit testing console? So I decided, I was like, well, if I could generate the extension methods with a source generator, why not generate the tests with a source generator? So got that working, and the tests last time ballooned up, and they got very big very fast. I think when I ended last week, there was something like 7,000 tests. And I realized after poking at it a little bit longer that the reason it ballooned up so much is it was walking through and generating the base types for every possible property over and over and over again. So for example, if you take a text box and generate extension methods for every property from text box and all of its base types, you end up duplicating all of, say, the framework element properties across every single type that you generated. So once I cut that out and did a little bit of grouping and got it down to, okay, no, we're only going to generate one of these and maybe split across, and for each of the base types it generates a slightly different extension method class. But at least then it allowed for, okay, I'm going to generate the extension methods for framework element once and be done. So that got us down into the 600 test range, which was perfect. The last thing that I did that really helped speed this up, because before all of these tests were taking, I don't know, a few hundred milliseconds a piece, but when there's several thousand of them, that adds up quick. What I did instead, because inside of this library, when it runs the tests, it was calling app initialize, which is, in this testing library, it's the entry point. It starts a running WPF app that then you can write tests against, load it with XAML content, do whatever you need to. But running that on every single unit test causes quite a bit of overhead, because that has to start a full WPF process. So no matter how fast the tests are, that whole process start procedure is big and expensive. So what I did instead is I moved it up from a test initialize to a class initialize, because at least on all of these tests that are being written by the generator, the tests that are being written are only effectively just getting properties. They're not necessarily mutating the elements in any way. It's not like one test is going to set the text property and then another one's going to read it. So because of that, I was able to then consolidate it, and this cut down the run of the entire run of the unit test suite to a minute maybe. And that's with multiple target frameworks and everything, which is great. I want to actually go through, and one of the items that I logged to take a look at is right now this visual element test. This one class with, and I can pull in the, whoop, come back. Did I close my test explorer? I think I did. Boom. That's exciting. Thank you, Visual Studio. These 61 tests take longer to run than these other 554 because of it. Because these ones, I think almost every single one of these 61 tests is starting their own process, and these 554 are only starting one per class. So that starts to make a big difference fast. So that's the slow point. So I want to revisit these tests and figure out which tests are actually mutating elements and which ones could be reasonably executed on the same process. So I figure if I reorder and restructure a little bit, I can cut down on the number of app starts I have to do and significantly cut down the time needed to run all of these tests. Because it is up to 1,200 tests now, which is starting to get big and large. Okay, so a couple things I wanted to play with, because I just closed out a whole bunch of issues while trying to get the streaming stuff ready and fighting with my hardware. So this is the optimized test, which I think would be potentially a good one to look at. But I actually was going to try my hand at something I'm not very good at. So I am not a great designer, but I had an idea. There's a picture in my head, and I'd like to try and get it into a nice NuGet icon for the library, where it kind of resembles what you think of when you think of your task runner. So, and I'm thinking task runner from ye olden days, from like Visual Studio 2015 era. I realize that's like 6 years ago, but work with me here. Where you kind of have those thicker rounded circles with the checks or the X's in them. And I'm sort of picturing putting that as the icon with almost like a bulleted list of tests. So that is my thought of what I would like to do. Not a great designer, but I wanted to figure out what needed to happen, because I can't even remember. I set NuGet package icons like once in a blue moon and never again. So I was going to try my hand at seeing what I could do to actually design an icon. So not great at this, so it's going to be a learning experience. If anyone is great at it, feel free to either offer support or not laugh too hard. So let's start with this. I want to see what the icon targets are. And I'm trying to remember, because I believe there was some switch where the The icon used to be recommended to be in the package, and now it's recommended not. So we might double check this. Or maybe it used to be a URL, and now it's expected to be bundled in the item. Let's see, project properties. So package icon, PNG. What is the target resolutions, though? Size recommendation. That's what I'm looking for. 128 by 128. So I need a PNG. That's 128 by 128 for what I want to do. Seems reasonable. Sounds like a job for Paint.net. I know. I am, again, not a designer, but this is my go-to editor tool, because this is the level of designiness I am good at. I'm better than MS Paint, but not good enough for what most people would consider really good. Okay, so what's up, Robert? So WPF related NuGet package icon. We're gonna see if I can avoid making my a big fool of myself. Yes, Mountain Dew. We've got regular Mountain Dew tonight. At least that's what we're starting with. I've got a major melanin queue. Courtesy of a buddy of mine, brought me a 12-pack last night. So thank you, James. Okay, so let's start with getting our canvas size down to where it's supposed to be. 128, 128. Hold on. Aspect ratio's in the way. Be the right size. Okay, so this is the size of icon we're playing with. Okay, so this is what we want. And I think what I can show is, if we go to like the material design icons. I love the material design icons for everything. They are wonderful. And sometimes I'll use them just for inspiration. Pro tip, something I've been doing recently is, because you can download these as SVGs, for people who have 3D printers, you can load SVGs into things like Tinkercad and then just print SVGs. It's awesome. Totally love it. Okay, so that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something kind of list-like, because I think we're gonna merge a few things together. It's not quite what I'm after. What's XAML show? That's really not helpful. How about XML? That's more like what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something like that. That seems like something I want. So the question becomes, do we want, let's see. So we can crank this guy up a little bit. What's the color? XAML is, for whatever reason, XAML's purple. And I think actually, so we're going to leave this guy here for the moment. And actually, can I? Oh, maybe I have to do this now. Okay, fine, sure. So we're going to go XAML is purple. That seems fine. Size, let's bump this up to 128. That's going to be a little big, given that that's the entire size I have to work with. How about, because I'm sort of picturing floating this into the back. Let's do this in like an 80 range. Okay. Where's the go button? Icon at the bottom, maybe? Boom. Sweet. So I want to take you, and I would like to come over here and just go whoop, add it as a layer. Perfect. So we're gonna float you as a layer about there, and then let's come back over here, because I do want to land this thing with a transparent background at some point, which I think we can just do that. We might just do that. Leave the background on for now and then just move the layers around. Okay, so I want to grab something that's kind of list-like as well. So I think what I want is something kind of akin to this. Yeah, this is sort of akin to what I want. Because I'm thinking XAML icon back, kind of the line list. Because again, I'm going for a Test Explorer feel here. That's kind of the look we're going for. I kind of wish there was one where the lines weren't just perfectly straight, but I guess that wouldn't really line up with material design very well. Ooh, actually, what if we go here? I'm thinking what I might do is drop the boxes and replace those with the because I'm thinking what I want is red X, green check, green check. That's where I think I'm going here. Let's go there. So let's crank you up once again. I want the height of this thing to be close, because if I've got 128 to work with, that means if I want 3 of these, I want them to occupy roughly 40-ish pixels, which means this needs to be 2/3 of that, which means I need you about 80, give or take. And I want you a light grayish color. See, this is the hard part. I'm trying to communicate the picture in my head in words. When you're not an artist, that is very hard. Very hard. Okay, so that gives me that. Sure. So give me that. And then we're going to come over here. And we're going to go whoop. Add you as a layer. Yeah, because I'm thinking what we're going to do. So let's just turn you off for the moment. Let's turn the background off for the moment. So what I want to do here is I want to take this and I want to drop that much of it. Then I want to grab this and duplicate. Oh, I guess, hang on, before we duplicate, let's get these guys in position for where I want them. So this guy is going to end up being like, oh, no. Move pixels. Think about there maybe. Yeah, something like that. We're going to do this, Let's see. Copy, paste. Oh, I don't have Karnak turned on. That's part of why it's not showing. Bring you down here. Get that lined up straight. There, that looks better. Bring you in. That's going to float into the background. We might lighten that up a little bit too. Developers are artists with a different medium. Amen. The problem is, so NuGet packages where people actually put in the effort to like add icons and readmes and make them pretty are the ones that get used. I don't know if anybody but me is going to ever use this, but darn it, I'm going to put in the effort. Okay, so now what I want to grab is I need some circles with X's. So how about if I search failure? Fail. No. X. Oh, that yielded a lot. Yeah, kind of like this. Yeah, let's actually go with it. So hold on. So this circle X I think is what I want, but if I search for check, do I have an equivalent one? Because I want another similar thing for the success side. Might have to edit something a little bit because I don't see quite what I want. What I kind of want is exactly what this alarm... Oh, no. There it is. Right in front of me. Okay. So these things I think are going to be in the order of like 30 a piece. And we want to go with some green. It's hard to tell what the... That's not... That color's not bad. Let's go with that. Okay, so give me that icon. And then give me, I'm going to go back to the X, because I think we're going to just import these into the same layer. So let's see, advanced export, make you a 30 as well. We want scary red mode. Ooh, I got it right on the first try. Sweet. Give me that X. Okay. So that gives me that. Come back over here, and we're going to go with, if I click and drag both, I think it's nice enough. Oh, add layers. Well, that's fine, I guess. Is that about the right size? That's about the right size of what I was thinking for. So let's turn off that layer for the moment. Let's see, copy, paste. Because I'm thinking everybody likes the green circle. It's always better. Green circle goes there, I think. Okay, so leave the green circles, turn that on. Oh, too many. Turn that off. I get a little weirded out trying to figure out the proper way of doing this, but okay, so that goes like that. That doesn't look half bad in my opinion. Okay, so then this guy floats to the back, but I think we might make him bigger. Turn you off, turn you off, turn you off. Let's do this. Somewhat tempted to just go and re-download it and just change it up. Let's just do that. No, it was XAML was the icon. So advanced export, and I think I want to get more like in the 120 range. I think I want this guy to be big. But I think I also want him a little bit lighter purple. Maybe even lighter. That's too light. I can't decide. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so then we're going to come back over here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to drop that layer. Bring this guy in, add layer. Bring you down. I think we're going to center you up, or actually offset you just a little bit. And then see how that looks. So that's pretty close to the picture I had in my head. Something like that for an icon. It's kind of hard to see with the thing. Maybe it should have a background on it to ensure that, to make this gray visible. Probably. Probably. I just don't know what I would do for it though. Oh. Cancel. Okay, so let's go down here then. Turn everybody else off. Let's work on this layer back here. If we take you out, let's go with a more color. I'm thinking a light green. Very light green. And let's go with a rectangle, rounded rectangle, corner size 10. Yeah, that's pretty close. Let's start from one corner into the opposite corner. And we want to fill. Why are you not filling the space? Did I not pick the right draw and fill shape? That's better. Boy, that green is really obnoxious. See if we can lighten that up a little less. That is... There we go, that's what we want. I want that green, but I want it a lot less saturation. Like, let's go down to low. I'm thinking really low. Just a hint of green. And then this becomes a filled rect. And that leaves for a lot of contrast on the other ones. I think I want the corner radius bigger. Okay, so let's do corner size. Let's double it. Use draw mode. Corner size 20. Might even go bigger, 30. Triple. Yeah, I agree, Robert. Man, I could almost even go bigger than that. Let's try that. Boom. I think that looks pretty good. I think that's not horrible at all. Kind of want to lighten up that XAML float. What are you trying to convey? So, what I was going for is, yeah, that's probably not a good sign if you're confused, Robert. So what I was going for is, for this icon, I was wanting something to indicate to feel a little bit like the Test Explorer from Visual Studio. I wanted to effectively convey that the intent of this project is largely around building something out that's going to be doing tests. And I wasn't going for newfangled Visual Studio icons. I was going for more classic-y Visual Studio icons. That was the intent, was to try to convey that this is a testing library for XAML. That was the intent. Now, I'm probably falling flat on my face a little bit. I think I like lightening up this XAML icon. So yeah, I guess that's a good point. The too light and you lose the color contrast. I almost want to go back and get these lines and have them be darker. Yeah, I kind of am liking lightening up this guy a little bit. So lighten up the XML icon in the back. Let's go back and get the list icon ones and do those again. I think I want them as a darker color. Sure, leave that there. Though these things, yeah, they've got a little, I don't want to try and futz with changing the color. Turn the light green to light green and pop the lines a little more. Oh, okay. So you are proposing, let's see, back here, a lighter gray. Let's go back. So something more akin to, let's see. So we want to real light gray. So I'm thinking like 92-ish. Okay, I wish I could do this. So something about like that. And then let's see there. How is that for contrast on the gray, Robert? I think I am going to go back and get the lines and get them as like a dark gray at least. I think you're right. I like that. I like the gray over the green. Good call. Okay, so what was that other thing called? Format list text. Pink for the XML and purple for the lines. Oh. Let's give that a shot. Robert, you didn't tell me that you had designy type knowledge. And let me look. While I'm in here, I'm wondering if there's a better icon for the lines. I'm wondering if I go something a little simpler. Because actually, this icon here, this is very akin to kind of the look I was going for. Except for I don't like these icons. Those are just, eh. But I'm wondering if perhaps I bring in like this icon and then I just strip the square, triangle, and circle off and just leave the lines. I'm thinking rather than the double indented lines, a straight 3 lines is probably cleaner. So that makes the sizing on this a little easier, because that's just going to bump to 120. And I assume you're recommending like a dark purple on this. Given that the background's a light gray, they need to be dark enough to pop. Yeah, so let's try that and see what that looks like. Okay, and then add layer. And then let's go about there, I think. Bit darker gray. Okay, so I think what we're going to do for that is I'm just going to come down to here, grab my, let's grab my little eyedropper, pick up the gray, let's go to like 85 maybe, paint bucket, solid color fill. What do you think of that? Slightly darker. $70. I feel like if I go all the way to 70, I kind of want to go, that feels a little, I'm thinking more like a 75 maybe. So I want to be cautious of that I don't want to get too close to these. And I almost want to lighten up this, the XAML icon and the XML icon just a little bit more in the back. Let it float a little more into the background. Thinking maybe like that. And I might actually, so the one other thing I might do, so I'll let it float a little more like that. But then I'm thinking what I want to do is I want to pick it up and, let's see, move selected pixels. I want to adjust it because it looks a little funny with its positioning. I want to make it clear that it's not just where how it lines up in the lines. I kind of want to make it obvious that it's a separate, that it is in fact a separate icon. So I kind of like moving it up a little so it's very clearly showing that this is in fact floating back there. I think that looks I think I like that positioning a little better. Icons and the lines are not aligned vertically. Well, Robert, we can fix this. I have the technology. because you are correct. Those things are a little off, and that will start to bother me after a while. So let's get that lined up. Boom. And then I need to switch over to the circle layer. Grab that, turn that off. Nope, that is not the right tool. Grab that again. Grab that and move that up. Okay. Then grab this guy. Move pixels. How's that? To my naked eye, that looks pretty close. Again, I'm not a designer. I'm not good at this, but I can fake it pretty well. Kind of like it. I very rarely go to the effort of actually like making my own icons, but I've put enough effort into this library that I'm a little proud of it. I'm a little proud of it. It deserves to have a decent icon. Let's roll with it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to save it in a couple of formats. Let's try and go really dark gray just for a check. You're talking on the background, right? So if we go here and we grab my eye picker, grab that, and then so really dark. So we're going to drop to like maybe a 40. Ooh. Go like full dark theme mode. Ooh, Robert. That's a really good idea. Yeah, I'm liking it more too. I'm also a dark theme guy to begin with, so but I do like it. What do you think? About a 25? Because that looks, if I put Visual Studio here, I'm gonna move Visual Studio aside, because if I put the Test Explorer background on it, wow, the Test Explorer background is even a little darker. Will you let me just eyedropper another window? Oh, you won't. That's boo. That means I could even theoretically go darker and be okay. I mean, you don't want to go full black, but yeah. And honestly, my cheater way of doing it is I take a screenshot, paste it in a new window in paint.net, and then grab the color that way. It's a horrible hack, but it works. I kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily want to go. This, just looking at this is darn near full black. It's just barely off. I think I like the idea of this though. So I think what I want to do is inside of my repo, I think I'm going to save the actual, normally I don't check in the paint.net project files, but I think in this case I'm going to. So let's just do let's do an images directory. And I think I want to save it there. And let's call it icon, because I think that will do pretty well. But at least now I've got the project file saved, so if I want to get back into this state, I can. Oftentimes I'm very guilty of just doing up the design, exporting to PNG, and then being done with it, which is really bad if you ever want to come back and edit later. Okay, so let's save as, and then let's go into, hey, I understand save as implies different, but let's go and make this a little different here. So we want a PNG. Oh, actually, before we do this, let's whack that layer because we never want that layer. And then, we want to get rid of this layer too. Oopsie. There. That's the state I wanted in. Save. Okay. So now let's do a save as and go to PNG. Save. I think we're going to just force it 32-bit. Go ahead and flatten. That's fine. Okay, so there's the PNG. Okay, so now for the... Okay, so much for the hard part. Now for the easy part, where we use the thing. Yeah, that looks nice. I like that. Yeah, that's what this PDN is, Robert, the original paint.net file. So you can... We can confirm this. So you can reopen it and get back into your... Get all of the layers and everything that you had before. So... When assuredly I want to edit later, or somebody says I hate it, do something different, at least then there's a way back. But this will at least get me into a good state. Okay, so we want to do pack icons. So we want to do this maneuver here. So I think we can cheat a little bit. Because okay, so where's my I've lost my Visual Studio window. Oh, it's hiding behind my Test Explorer. Don't make your Test Explorer bigger than your Visual Studio window, otherwise you lose it. Okay, so I think we can cheat with our build props file because I can get away with doing this. And actually, let's put it down here with the other ones. The other thing I want to turn on is I want to... Written against... Should really, like spell check my own stuff too. What I really want to do is also turn on source link as well. Because that seems like a good idea. Oh, and this change was not supposed to make it in. I don't think. So that should go away. Oh shoot, that probably published to NuGet.org when I merged in. Oopsie. Side tangent. Let's just go check that. This is why you should always have... Oh good. Okay. Perfect. I was going to say, I was hoping my pipeline overrode the version, which I'm guessing it must be doing for me. Pack, where am I setting version? Somebody must be setting it to avoid. There. Boom. Perfect. That's what we want. And then I had to do some stuff because we're cross-compiling for both. Okay, so there's that. That's fine. That's fine. We're going to set icon here. And then I think what we do is we go back over here. And we've got this item group. Let's see. So replace icon URL with the icon. Replace icon URL with icon with a file picker. I have no idea what that means. On selecting a file on disk, the value updated. Oh. Got it. Okay, that's a very hard way of doing it. That is a very hard way of doing it. Okay, so ultimately, what we really just need is this item group. Boom. Gimme. So, let's go here. Trying to think of where best place to put this is. Probably down here. We're going to do this, do this, do this. Then this guy is going to be whack. I think we still called it icon, didn't we? Yeah, so icon PNG should find it. Huzzah. Great. Reload. You're fine. You're fine, Visual Studio. I promise. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. The one thing I was going to check is we could set it. So the one thing that would be really slick. So this is the weird thing about this project. So this is both a library and a WPF app bundled into one. So slightly abusive, but it means when you start up the test, this app is both the library referenced by your unit test project as well as the target application that the unit test project will start, which is how it can stay in sync because it is itself a launcher and a library. So a little bit of recursion. But I want to set the oh, I can't set the window icon, can I? Because I need an actual ICO. Oh. I got this. I added an extension to paint.net. File, save as, icon file. Yeah, buddy. Okay. So we do that, and then we do, I don't care. Select all. Some of these are probably going to look horrible when you get down to lower bits. But you know what? The only thing lower bits get used for are like older operating systems, and I can't imagine too many people are running .NET 5 on an older operating system. So, Okay, so close that. So now I've got that. And we should be able to go here, images. Wait, would you let me set it to a PNG? There's no way that works, right? What did that do? Application icon. So we're not going to put it there. So .NET 5 on Windows 95. Yeah, I hope not. Okay, and so we don't want that. But I kind of want to build this. I'm going to be a little surprised if it'll work with a PNG. I didn't think it would, but we're going to test and find out because that will be the icon stream is not in the expected format. Okay. So it'll let you point it at a PNG and then it'll blow up on compile. That is fair. That is fair. Oh, subtle punch for material design. The material design demo app has built-in functionality for generating ICO files. This is really cool. I'm going to show this real quick. So if you are struggling to get a nice ICO file for your application, go grab the material design demo app. You can get it right from the releases page on the material design project. And you go down to icons. And then pick your favorite icon, doesn't matter what. And this little button right here, this guy, you click it. And you can now generate it up. So, you want a bright green foreground, maybe. Something like that. Maybe you want the background to be, I don't know, blue. And you too can generate yourself up a nice icon file. This could probably use a lot more options if anybody wants to add some to it, but for now, it works. Easy mode to get yourself a nice ICO file from any of the material design SVGs. So, you're welcome. Okay, so XAML test. Sweet! I don't know if people can see that. Hang on. I got zoom it. Boom. Look at that. Looks a little weird when it gets shrunk down to that size, but it does in fact show the icon. Sweet. Cool. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, so I also want to verify that it works. Okay, so I want to verify that it does in fact set it up nicely on the NuGet package, .NET pack. Yeah, so this NuGet package that it builds is now already a little weird. So it makes a NuGet package that contains a WPF exe that gets referenced as a library that starts the WPF app, but it also contains a DLL with an source generator, which is just awesome. All packaged into one thingy. This is going to be an awesome NuGet package. It's going to have all the cool stuff. Okay, so let's go and look. So I am in the wrong directory. Need to go up bin debug. So we just generated this guy, right? So yes. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, that is ugly. Don't do that. But it does in fact have the icon. Again, looks a little ugly when shrunk down. Oh. I'm not going to worry about it. Not going to worry about it. I was just thinking maybe I should do it at a lower resolution, but at a certain point, some stuff just doesn't look good. You know what? Good enough to be recognizable. Oh, and it embedded it here. Interesting. Okay. Contains untracked sources. What do you contain that's untracked? Source link. Yeah, and that's expected. Oh, I have source link turned on. Embed untracked sources true. Well, we wanted to turn that on already, so let's go turn it on. Embed that was what it said to do, right? Should not have closed that so quickly. Just confirm. Embed untracked sources, plural. Okay. Embed untracked sources, plural. Okay. So rebuild. Rebuild probably not necessary, because I'm guessing that property is for the pack command, but we'll make this bigger. .NET pack after the build. And it should. Oh, I guess I could probably go through. Okay, so that should have given me a new package. I'm going to clean those up since I don't need these. New timestamp, right? 954. Good enough for me. Also use... I think this thing is confused. I kind of want to test it and see if SourceLink is already enabled. Hang on, I want to look. Did I already enable SourceLink? I don't see it here. SourceLink. So I think I've actually already enabled SourceLink. Cool. That means we should be able to test it. Okay, so we'll do that in a minute. But more importantly, we believe we've got an icon set up for this guy. So let's pull request this beast. Create branch. Icon sounds like a great name for this branch. Okay, so underneath the images folder, we're going to check in all the things. Okay, so application icon is set. The packing of the icon is set. Fix that, drop that. Package icon. I'm wondering if this is correct because this says icon PNG. I don't think we need this line. So I'm going to discard this line, rebuild, and then repack because I'm pretty sure we don't need that line. Because I think the pack command is smart enough to figure it out from this. I could be wrong. That I am wrong. I am wrong because this will just get it into the package. It won't set it as the NuGet package. So let's put that back. Because this has to match this. Okay. That seems good. Goodish. Good enough. Okay. We're going to keep them both. Okay, so stage that. Stage that. Adding icon. Fixes. Pound. And then what was my issue number? 18. As you can tell, small repo. Fixes 18. Boom. Push. Submit. And then we're gonna cheat because right here we can just go new pull request. And we can just PR this guy right from here. Hang on. Does it not? I thought there was a start pull request to origin from origin icon. That's what I want. New pull request. That's how hard it should be. Boom! Thank you, Get Kraken. Thank you, Get Kraken. For those that missed it, right-click on your branch, start a pull request. And done. No thinking involved. Okay, so I want to test this. I want to test the source linkiness of this. So, to test the source linkiness of this, we're going to do a couple things. Step one, I'm going to close Visual Studio, and just to prove that it is not accidentally bound, well, it shouldn't be bound to my system regardless of how this plays out. So that should be fine. I'm going to pull open Material Design, and we are going to just bring in the latest preview NuGet package that was published a couple hours ago, because I believe the source link stuff should have been in and working. So if it is, we're just going to test it. Simple. So we'll fire this guy up. Then we will go through it and see. I just want to confirm. When I did that, it did. Cool. Cool. GitHub works. Excellent. Proud of you, GitHub. Proud of you. Okay, so UI test projects. The problem being we can't just right-click manage NuGet packages in here. And the reason is because the material design project uses this directory package props, which gives you centralized package management, but kills all UI bits. So you can't use the NuGet package manager Visual Studio with this yet. Question. So let's see. Hi, question for you if you don't mind. I'm new to software and starting with C#. Awesome. Welcome aboard. Is WPF a good way to really get into C# and even get a career in? Seems like most people keep saying ASP.NET Core is the way to go. So, okay. So I'm going to put a little star next to this answer. WPF is probably one of my favorite frameworks, so I am heavily biased. So take my answer with a bit of a grain of salt. The reason so many people will tell you ASP.NET Core is because the vast majority of software development that is done today tends to be web-based. most stuff doesn't require a lot of like desktop app level performance or integration. The web has gotten really good, especially with all of the HTML5 integrations for what it's capable of doing. And most software, especially like the stuff in enterprise, which is where a lot of money is, it tends to be take this little bit of data, move it over here. There's a surprisingly large amount of enterprise software where that's the complexity level of it, and add a whole bunch of business rules around it. But at the end of the day, it's take some data, move it from here to here. And so a lot of stuff has gone to the web because of that. Or I should say, a lot of apps are web-based because they don't need it. Some things will, I don't think, ever make it fully web app-like. I mean, you've even got Visual Studio with like the remote workspaces to where you can take Visual Studio code and start developing inside of a browser. Like that's the level of awesomeness that a browser has gotten to where you can legitimately write production level code in your browser using cloud-based infrastructure. It's amazing. But there are things like Visual Studio is still a desktop application. And there's bits and pieces of Visual Studio that are WPF. And so WPF is not going anywhere anytime soon. I think one of the things that I've heard several Microsoft people say is, don't worry about us killing off desktop frameworks. People keep worrying that they're going to get rid of stuff. Windows Forms came out long before WPF, and Microsoft is still supporting it, and it's still one of the biggest UI frameworks out there. I don't like it. There's a lot of quirks to it, but it's been around so long. It's been battle tested and tried and true. It's very popular. So as far as getting a career in software, WPF, it is a way to go to get a career in it. Be aware what you will probably find in the job market is there are probably a lot fewer places that are going to be hiring for a specific WPF role. And it really comes down to the fact that there are fewer desktop apps being built than there are web-based applications. You will find far more stuff being built with web-based technologies than you will desktop, simply because most apps don't require desktop level integrations. I build out some stuff that does a lot of interactions with video files for video processing, and it's a little bit prohibitive to go into the cloud. Just because of the nature of the video files, they're going to be local on disk. And so waiting to upload a 40 gig file to the web isn't a practical solution. It needs to be a system that could work on disk. And you can kind of cheat a little bit with web stuff. And there's some really cool stuff with like WebAssembly, even loading FFmpeg directly into it. But that's still the domain of a desktop app. It's still the domain of those thick client-rich interactions. But whether it needs to be WPF or something else, I think kind of depends. So obviously, if you are building a desktop application, my strong preference is WPF. That's my go-to tool for desktop stuff. WinUI 3 is the new kid on the block that's supposed to be the up-and-coming awesome replacement to WPF. Supposed to be. But the Microsoft Universal Windows Platform, UWP, was also supposed to be that, and it kind of fell flat. WinUI 3 is kind of okay, we're going to unify, the UWP, WPF experience that we had before, kind of rally around, we now understand, some of the mistakes we made before, let's do something better. It shows a lot of promise. It's not even fully released yet. I think we're on like beta 6 at this point, so still not something that people are suggesting production apps in, but it is the latest upcoming. So if you're wanting to kind of future-proof, looking at WinUI 3 isn't a bad idea either, again, assuming that you want to go desktop apps. The other thing to potentially consider as well is mobile applications, and some people clump mobile development in with the desktop apps because they're still kind of that thick client integration. I view them very separate because of the difference in operating system in which you're running under. You don't get the same capabilities with a Windows desktop app as you do on an Android phone. Those are very different things. And you approach problems differently because on a desktop, you've got lots of computing power. On a phone, you don't have anything. So that would be another one. And there's, I would say, a little bit more demand for mobile applications than even desktop applications, simply because a while back there was this running thing of every company needs to have their own app. And then people figured out, oh, wait, we can do like progressive web apps on the mobile and that kind of thing. But there are still plenty of things where you do need a mobile application to work. I worked on one for a company that was in the hospitality industry, building things out for hotels to do like navigation on the user's phone to like guide them into, here, let me guide you into your room. And it had to interact with some specialty hardware and all that kind of fun jazz. It was great. It was a fun Xamarin application to build. But there are those types of things that are still the realm of the desktop stuff. Yeah, and I agree with Robert there, is that there's definitely every single one of those has its place, but I think if you look at like market share and job listings, you will probably find a lot more web-based, simply because that's what so many companies are doing. Let's see. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the explanation. You're the first one who's actually been helpful. Struggle to find anything decent on ASP.NET Learning outside of documentation, which still seems to be a mess. Yes, but it is getting better. Quick side note, on the Microsoft Docs, if you find issues while you're going through the documentation, if you go to the bottom, a lot of them have the links where you can like report issues, and you'll note it just kind of shells out to GitHub. Microsoft actually has people that are actively monitoring and trying to make sure that those docs are useful. Specifically, one of the things that they've been trying to really emphasize is helping people learn and get involved. So especially as somebody new and learning, your perspective is actually more valuable than somebody like me who's been doing it for a while, because I'll read stuff and I'll go, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, but I also have years of experience to draw on for doing that. So as a new person, if you see something that doesn't make sense, or things aren't quite right, or there's additional questions, use that button. There are people that will monitor it. And there's even options if you want to suggest the change yourself. You can even do pull requests on GitHub, which will legitimately go right back out to the docs page. They've got a really fancy pipeline process that goes through and gets deployed out several times a day. I don't remember exactly, a bunch. And they always are looking for more people. Anyone you talk to has been dismissive. It's been frustrating. Contemplated mobile or C# Unity, but here it's hard to get in. Bad pay treatment. Yeah, so my experience is less in the game development side, and I've heard that story a little bit, that in the game development side, you can get worse treatment, and I think some of it comes from the idea that game development, a lot of people see it as the fun software development, because you're building a game. I've also heard people say that building video games is a great way to start hating video games. So I've never actually been involved in that scene much, so I don't want to speak too much to it. I only have secondary knowledge of coworkers who have come from that scene. So I'm kind of speaking in a little bit of ignorance there. And I think that's probably why the lower pay and kind of worse treatment might come from, is it's easy to find entry-level people who want to do that because it's the fun stuff. I disagree. I personally, for me, the fun stuff is building libraries and tools for developers. That's what I find to be really fun. But I'm also weird, so that probably doesn't count. Ooh. Robert, I didn't know you had Unreal and Unity experience. I'm learning so much about you tonight. What did you build in it? Yeah, and I think what I would say is, especially so I teach at one of the local universities, and oftentimes I've had students ask me questions of, what should I learn? Should I learn ASP.NET Core? Should I learn WPF or mobile, or what should I do? And honestly, good companies will hire you based upon your potential, not necessarily what you know right then. And that's a little bit of it's everything depends. My company, we look for that potential and what people can learn a lot, especially when we're looking to hire entry-level people, because odds of an entry-level person knowing what we want them to know is pretty low. But we're looking for those people who can learn and do well. And so oftentimes when people are getting started, what I tell them is go and build something that you like. If you like building mobile apps, build an industry or build yourself a mobile app. Go learn Xamarin, right? Build something that you like. If you think game development is fun, going and doing like something with Unity, yeah, do that, because you're going to learn better doing something that you want to be building. And then it gives you something, hopefully, that you're proud of to show an interviewer or a potential company of, hey, look, I built this thing, which is great. So find something you like and learn that. Yeah, want to learn everything, end up being frozen with choices. Yeah, so I would say pick the thing that you like and roll with that. Yeah, exactly what Robert said. Pick something you're passionate about. You will always learn more building something that you're passionate about than if you don't. And that's usually the best way to go. I was doing something before I got off on a tangent. Oh, right, updating a NuGet package. Oh boy, that was harder than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so I want this package version, because this is the one I posted an hour ago. So let's take that. And if I go to XAML Test, you'll note this was pointed at 123 because I was using a local folder. So I'll just show that real quick. So for people interested, if you want to test NuGet packages, you can set up, and you can do this inside of your repository with a NuGet.config file. But you can set up multiple sources. So everybody comes with NuGet.org as their default built in the Microsoft one. But you can add a local one that's just pointed at a folder. So then what I do is I just when I make those NuGet packages with .NET Pack, I just drop them into this folder. And then my system sees it as, ooh, new NuGet package to bring in. The only problem is SourceLink requires a server. And so SourceLink won't work with a local source. So you need something better. So we are going to not use the local source, and we're going to use this one. So, but because this one doesn't exist on my local, only exists out on NuGet.org, it'll only resolve in one place. So even if I pick Unity and learn C# that way, it won't prevent me from any other path. Sorry for the distraction. Oh, not at all. I love questions. So no. I actually have a coworker that's going down that exact path. He's very passionate about building games and learning C# via Unity. Unity sometimes drags just a little bit behind latest and greatest versions of C# because of all of the fancy integrations that they've got building, but not much. So sometimes if like the latest version of C# drops and there's some great new feature, you might have to wait a little bit for Unity to catch up and get it. But at least from what I've seen, the Unity guys catch up very quickly. So no, it will not hinder you in the least. And a lot of C#, like I came into the job that I'm at now with almost no web experience. I came in with a strong background in WPF and C#, didn't know any web, but that didn't really slow me down too much when it came time to doing web-based projects, because in the end, it's still just C#. So as long as you have a good understanding of how C# works and reading it and working through it, every framework and library is a little different. You get dropped into a project with a new library, you're going to have to spend a little time learning how that particular library's API functions. But after that, it's all just C#. And if you're familiar with the fundamentals there, won't slow you down at all. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm probably... Yeah, a lot of it is very transferable, and even the stuff that I do on WPF, I find very transferable between it and other XAML-based frameworks. I don't know if there's a framework I can think of that doesn't have overlap with at least some other frameworks, and anything that uses C# is usable everywhere. or is usable everywhere where you see C#. Okay, so based on the fact that my latest version has breaking API changes, I am not sure if this is going to compile or not. So it's going to be fun. See what happens. And it failed. Well, what a shock. What a shock. Not overly surprised. I did just realize that this might be, well, but I kind of want to update the material designed to the latest version of this library anyway. So let's just check and see, because I want to confirm that I'm on a branch with that's reasonably up to date. Cool. Yeah, exactly what Robert said. Robert's been doing this for a long time. I trust his opinion. Okay, so you are giving me some wacky errors. Get foreground color. So this might be interesting. This should work. Get foreground color. Where T is control. That should be. What is your problem here? Oh, it's because this is nullable and that is not nullable, and that is a problem. So let's just do cert not null. Is the master between the three. I wouldn't go that far, Robert. Hey, Rob Morgan. Thank you for the subscription. I appreciate it. That's my name too. Well, that makes it easy for me to remember. I can just start calling everyone Robert, and that'll work rather smoothly for me, at least for tonight. And no problem. Like I said, I love questions. So if you run into issues with C# or whatnot, feel free to drop in. I love questions, and sometimes people worry about, oh, you had a plan for tonight and you're now deviating. I don't care. I enjoy questions and do not mind bouncing around onto other things if there are questions on them. So I'm going to just do this. Do this, do this. That fixes that much. And, well, let's build again and see what happens. Was that really the only error? Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate the follows. And yeah, like I said, I very much, I am happy to help people. I think some of it comes from I enjoy teaching as well. That's something that I've discovered, and it's actually been a huge blessing being able to teach at a local university via my job, because it's when I initially had realized that I enjoyed teaching, I actually sent an email to one of my old profs. So I got incredibly lucky going through college or university. Oh, Robert, you're awesome. One of the profs that I had didn't come from academia. He had actually come from working for Hewlett Packard for many years. And so he taught very differently than a lot of other profs at the university. And I absolutely loved him. He was one of the ones that got me, oh, thank you, Robert, as well. He got me really sucked into the whole idea of computer science, because when I initially went to college, I thought I wanted to be a network engineer or a sysadmin. And he's the one who was like, give programming a try. You might like him. I'm like, sure, we'll try it. One class, I was hooked. It was done at that point. But I sent him a message and was like, hey, how did you get into teaching? I know you started in industry. And I don't remember exactly how I phrased it. The short answer was, don't. He's like, you don't want to go back and teach at a university. The pay is horrible. The hours are long. It's it's rough. He's like, look at like corporate training or something. And I was like, okay, I work for a consulting company, that's great. We'll see where that goes. And then when the opportunity came up to teach at a local university, I was like, via my job, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. I'm totally in. I love it. I do IT now actually, but would love to move out of it. That's actually pretty good. It is actually shocking to me how many programmers don't necessarily have a good, strong sense of like basic IT or sysadmin knowledge. It's kind of scary. Let's see. Assert. Let's see. Not null. So it's in my mind quite helpful. I've got another colleague I work with. He comes from a very strong sysadmin perspective. And so we actually paired for a little bit, trying to get him up to speed doing some coding, because he was like, I can set up a network. I have no problem with VPNs and subnets. He's like, all this coding stuff that you guys do goes right over my head. I was like, I'm happy to teach. Let's do this. So I think people can come at it from very different backgrounds and be very successful. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, and so the one part, like, I don't subscribe to the idea that programmers necessarily need to have a good, strong background in it. But because I had thought that I wanted to be a sysadmin, I came at it with a bunch of because I took probably a year and a half worth of classes around like A+ certification. There was a networking cert as well that I had taken the training class for. Again, thinking that that's where I was going. And the funny thing is, I've actually used the stuff from that class a lot. Especially when you build an app and deploy it somewhere and it falls over, having a good understanding of like networking and being able to like trace the communication between all of your systems and understand, oh, that works like this, and follow it, that's so valuable. Again, I don't think all developers need it, but if you have it, it's a great asset. Okay, color adjust test, we fixed those. Outline button test. So pretty much the breaking change that messed me up is that one. So that's okay. Is I made all of these guys nullable. And I think all these green squiggles go away. Yeah, because it's squawking about the reachable on platforms. And I'm pretty sure it just doesn't know it because it hasn't completed. Let's see. Text box, set text. Text box. So this should really go to a var, and this should be a text box. Boom. Type safety for the win. Huh? What? Oh, because I have a namespace text box. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, completely agree with you. Okay, so I need system, Windows, controls, text box, because I need to disambiguate this from my text box namespace. So there's a basic design principle in C# where you don't want to have namespaces that conflict with type names for that exact problem. Because I have a namespace called text box, I can't just do the class name here because my namespace is closer in the resolution hierarchy. It wins, which is, it makes sense, but it's not the behavior I want. I should probably look at renaming all these namespaces at some point. So, when in doubt, when you're naming your namespaces, avoid namespaces that could conflict with type names. Same with types. Don't use type names that conflict with namespaces because you'll get into the situation, or at least avoid it. Not to say there's never times or places to do it, but it is. You get into that case of having to disambiguate. Let's see, time picker text box. So that should be easy. Time picker text box. Boom. Oh, and this guy. Huh. I think this will work. Sorry, I'm only thinking through this because, so this is a material design control. And I'm getting type safety over it, even though I haven't run my generator against it. But I'm pretty sure I'm only getting the type safety because its base type is text box. Yeah. And it doesn't add anything but a type. Interesting. That's awesome. That's the behavior I would hope for. But I kind of fell into that by accident, not by intentionality, which is sad, but also totally awesome. I love it when a plan comes together. Let's see. Time picker text box. Boom. Okay, so that goes there, and I assume it's probably the exact same error on all the tests. Yep. Because that was the big change that I just did to the library, is adding type safety. Before, all elements were just the common interface. And it worked, but I'd rather have the compiler check my work. Okay, so after that little detour of fixing the stuff, it now compiles. Excellent. Okay, so we want to test. Let's find a simple test. I would like to validate that I can step into the XAML test library. So, yeah, this test should work just fine. Okay, so we're going to set a breakpoint and debug. Okay, so if we step in here, so this one here, we haven't left the material design project yet. You can see that we're still inside of the UI test one, which is fine. But I believe, so this one here should still be inside of ours. So this is still, once again, XAML Test Mixin. So I haven't left my UI test project. That's fine. Builds up a big string. App initialize. I believe this one is going to get me outside. Oh, and see, it didn't step me in. I expected to step into that method. Okay, so first step. Source link. Where is debugging? Enable source link. So this is the key bit to enable. So that's done. So then I guess the question is, if I'm not getting source link support, oh, I wonder if I'm not pushing the symbol packages. Does it show it here by any chance? No, it is. It does have the symbols. Why? Okay. Let us look. And actually, maybe what we should do is start with this. Let's download. We're going to download the NuGet package. Time for bed, unfortunately. I'll definitely be stopping in as much as possible. Have a great night. You too, Robert. Thanks for stopping by. Looking forward to talking to you. Let me know how your learning is going. Okay, so it does show signature contains untracked sources. So what is going on here? So in the build we have all of the stuff. Because you'll know this was my comment about it being both a WPF application, which is what these guys up here are, as well as being a library that gets referenced. So inside of NuGet packages, when you reference a NuGet package, anything inside of the lib folder that matches your target framework gets pulled in. And there's some magical resolutions of what's the term for like down framework matching? Framework resolution? Something. And in our case, because this is WPF, we're only targeting Net Core and Net 5. I did not backport this to Net Framework because it uses protocol buffers, which do not go back that far. You'll note it's got this dependency here on gRPC named pipes. And so that one doesn't go back to framework. And because I don't need this for framework, I didn't bother to backport it. There's probably solutions if somebody really cared, but I kind of doubt it. This guy here has everything. The key part here with the build folder is if there is a build folder that matches based on your target framework, and there is a targets file that has the same name as the ID of your NuGet package, it will get automatically loaded as part of your build. So that's ultimately how this thing gets itself started and gets itself rolling. So it does a bunch of magic to make it all happen. And then it's got the analyzer, which is great. At some point, I should probably put in a VB equivalent. Which my way of doing VB is actually, I gen the code in C# and then decompile into VB and look at the source. Not a great solution, but it works. It works. Okay. So why it seems like SourceLink should be working, but let's walk through and make sure we haven't missed a step, because my experience is if things are failing, it is almost assuredly because you have missed a step. Okay, so let's check all of these to make sure we covered all our bases. And we're going to load up XAML Test because that's where these properties are. And I suppose we can stop the debug there. I probably, the one thing I want to also fix too is this, my XAML Test library can occasionally leave stray XAML Test processes like that one, just kind of hanging out. And I want to fix that before the next release as well. Basically, I want it to have a heartbeat. There's a system inside of Windows called Jobs inside of a process. It's a Win32 API you can get access to, whereby you register a process as a child of another one, and therefore if the parent process dies, the child gets killed off as well. Which is great, except for it's one level deep. You can't have a child be the parent of something else. So there's no grandchildren processes, which gets to be a problem when you start considering that you don't own the process. You are being started by something like .NET Test. So you're already a child of something else. So you get into that weird situation. And I think just a simple heartbeat and having it terminate itself if that heartbeat stops would be by far the easiest, in my opinion. Okay. Publish the repository URL. Okay, so XAML test. Let's start with, I don't think, so we already had enable untracked sources set to true down here. So this is actually meaningless up here that we did. So that's exciting. So let's see, publish repository URL. I don't see it in the directory build props. Let's check the CS proj. Don't see it there either. So we're gonna just set it up here. Okay. Publish repository URL true. Embed untracked sources. That was set here. And I think what we're going to do is I want to just do a separate property group for the source linky stuff. Put them all in one place. Okay, include symbols, true. Oh, that's a capital T. I really hope that's not the bug. But we're going to lowercase that. Symbol package format, S NuGet package. So let's do source link properties. Something like that. Okay, so that goes there, and then add a package reference specific for your source control under the provider, which we have done so. We have this guy here. And so let's real quick, let's just confirm that we have no updates to said package. Source link. So 1.0 is the latest and greatest, it looks like. Let's see. Visual Studio 15.7 Plus supports downloading source files from private GitHub and Azure DevOps repositories that require authentication. This is the exact same repository. So package reference, private assets all, which I think is what I saw. Private assets all. So we can actually simplify this guy. So let's do private assets all, and then let's cut this down here. Yeah, reload the project. Clean that up a little bit. Okay, so we took care of the GitHub one. Let's GitLab, Bitbucket. We don't need that. Don't need that. Prerequisite for net projects. Yeah, we got that. Need to be on Netcore 2.1 or greater. Got it. Enable untracked sources does not work in Visual Basic projects. That's not our problem. Issue when building WPF projects. Issue when building WPF projects with embedding sources on base intermediate output math, not a subdirectory of the project directory. These sound like things we should look at real quick, given that we are legitimately building WPF projects. Is related but different than WPF. The projects that do not reference source link packages. Oh, so maybe moving this outside. Ah. Okay. I'm not packaging my tests. Okay, I still don't fully understand why. Okay, let's take a look here. Base intermediate output path. So this is build will fail. Interesting. Okay. So I don't believe either of these are our problem. I do want to check the debug type that's being set though. I would expect it to be defaulting to portable. So with inside .NET, there's multiple debug types for how you generate this. And maybe I should back up a little bit. So when you compile source code in C#, it gets compiled down to what is called intermediate language, IL. Some people will also reference it as CIL, so Common Intermediate Language, or in ye olden days, it was MSIL, Microsoft Intermediate Language. And when you're debugging through your source code, there needs to be some link between those IL instructions and the original C# code so that the debugger knows where to, like, what lines to highlight, where to jump you around at. And the magical link that does that is what is called your symbols. That's what gives the relationship between the IL code and your C# code. Now, that symbols file, there's a bunch of different ways it can do that linking for you. And the common new format that I believe the default is on what is called this SDK project format is the portable PDB format, which is the open source one. In ye olden days, the PDB file format was closed source Microsoft, and I think the original still might be. But the portable one is the new fancy open source, works cross-platform, etc. When Microsoft wanted to build .NET Core to go cross-platform, they had to do something so that their source file stuff wasn't tightly coupled to Windows. And you can imagine all of the fun stuff that I'm sure occurred with, like, file paths and differences and dealing with all of those kinds of issues. Because typically cross-plat, that's one of the first things you bump into. Source link, what it does is, rather than linking back to individual files, the source link libraries abuse the symbols, and rather than linking back to an individual file, it links back to a URL. And then as long as you have an IDE that supports source link, what it will do is it will download the code from that URL and then allow you to step through the code as though you already had the source code locally, which is awesome. Some people have run into kind of this weird behavior where, hey, if I compile my project in the same directory structure as it was when it was compiled on the server, I magically am able to step through it. And all that is the symbols linking, these IL instructions to this file path. You happen to have that file path with the right file, so it lets you start stepping through it. Or heaven forbid those things get out of sync, and it's the debugger starts showing you a file and stepping through the lines and going, sure, let's do this. And it doesn't quite line up. I've seen that happen a few times, which is fun. So that's the principle behind source link. The question is, where are the symbols and why do they not get loaded? So let's come back over here, and I actually want to grab it. I'm going to launch the test again. And we're going to look and see where the symbols are at, because I can't remember exactly at what point in the process the symbols get loaded. So inside of Visual Studio, the magic thing that you are looking for, I believe it's under Debug Windows if I'm not mistaken. Is it modules? Boom. So the modules window, and I don't know why it defaults to the top, everything goes on the bottom. Sort by name. The modules window shows you all of the modules that are loaded. Conceptually, most people will think of this as assemblies. There's technically assembly, module, and then you get into the fun stuff. But with the way all of our stuff works in .NET, each assembly contains one module. unless you've done something incredibly exciting. I believe it only contains one module. That'd be a fun thing to check. I don't think there's anything extra in there, but maybe there is. Okay, so we want to come down here to XAML Test. And you will note, so it gives us a little bit of whether it was compiled, optimized, or not, which is great. That's fine. And you can see where, like, for example, XUnit is telling me that, hey, I did find the symbol file that's needed for it. In this case, it found the symbol file that was embedded inside of the assembly, which is one way of doing it. That is another option. However, we intentionally published our symbols out to, apparently adding our icon caused the build to fail. We'll have to look at that. We intentionally published out our symbols to NuGet.org. And I was, if we look here, because you can see here, download symbols. And if I download it, what I end up getting is this SNUPKG file. And we can open this guy up as well. And inside of here, you will notice that it contains the PDB file that's supposed to be linked here, which is perfect. That's what you want. So why load symbols? Interesting. Symbol load information. Okay, so you can see where it went looking for the PDB file, which is very helpful for debugging where is my PDB. Cannot find or open. So this looks like GAC, so the Global Assembly Cache, GAC. Goes hunting inside of the output directory, which kind of makes sense. Appears to go hunting inside of the output directory twice. Okay, great. DA, this path here is likely the file path as it existed on the GitHub Actions build agent when the thing was compiled out on the server. Okay, so it didn't. Let's look at symbol settings. Oh. On. I bet you that's the problem. Is we did not have any symbol servers turned on. And our symbols live out on NuGet.org. Okay, let's try this again. Debug. Okay. Load symbols. Ha! Symbols loaded now. And you'll note it downloaded them into a local temp folder. So symbol cache, which is awesome. So if we look at symbol load information, let's see. So UNC HTTP get downloaded symbols, pulled them down and downloaded them from symbols.nuget.org. That's okay. I bet you we're able to step into the source code now. So if you configure your Visual Studio correctly, source link works. Who would have thought? So let's step over. So we're still inside of our UI test project. F11. Oh, come on. Come on. I want to step into here. I'm going to keep going for the moment. Get theme color. So get resource. Man, why is it not? It loaded the symbols. Open file location. What is it? symbol settings. Okay. Extract source code. And maybe it's just miscellaneous file in Solution Explorer. Oh. Sure. So there's all my generated code. Wait, so the only code it grabbed and generated... Okay. This is going to be a bad test for this then. Yeah, because this should be... Why is there a disjoint here? This should have loaded the correct symbols for it. So this is the source code in question that I would have expected to hit. Why did it not link these two things together? Okay, so step one, we're going to reboot Visual Studio because I don't know if those settings that I toggled require it. So we're going to start there. Because there is a reasonable chance that sometimes there is settings that require Visual Studio toggles and you have to reboot afterwards. I just don't know which ones those always are. Okay, and we're going to pick on a slightly different... Okay, we're going to ignore that for the moment. I want to find a slightly different test to pick on. Well, this one should actually be fine. Because these ones here should be taking me into the... See, and this is showing decompiled source. Which is fine, except for that's not what I want here. Okay, but let's put a breakpoint here and debug this. Because I would like to get source stepping working. This should work. That did not load that up. Let me just check. Are you able to load symbols? Load symbols. I would like to go to this symbol file location. Symbol load information. I would like to check this thing out. Symbol load cache. 260 kilobytes. That seems way too small. That seems really small. Let's look at what the symbol package is. Maybe I'm just wrong. Let's see here. So you can see here that this is actually rather helpful. So for people who haven't seen it, NuGet Packet Explorer, highly recommended. But when you select your PDBs, you can get a little bit of output about the information that's contained in the PDB. Again, this is all about linking those IL codes back to the original source code. And so you'll note here what SourceLink has done is rather than these pointing to a local file, it's actually automatically generated out URLs to the source code files out on my GitHub repo. So when you are stepping through the code and it needs to go and look up the file, this says, oh, by the way, when you want to get to the iApp interface, here's the link. This is where you go and download the source from, which is great. This is what we would expect. So SourceLink has happened, and I am missing something obvious. Why would SourceLink not? Unless there's a mismatch in assemblies? I was sort of expecting to see XAML test in this list. It's not here. And I'm trying to decide if that's a problem or not. Okay, so this is interesting. I expected it to load that information up. Let's see here. CFD6D, is that lining up with what? No, it's, I'm guessing, randomly generated. So let's start with this, because I don't know what version is in this cache. We're just going to start with, okay, close all windows, try again. Okay, so we've wiped it out of the symbol cache. I'm going to go in here real quick. I just want to make sure that it's not trying to pull from my local for some reason. We're going to turn off the local source as an option. Just because I know I've got weird versions in there, and I'm wondering if that's maybe confusing something. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so if we look at this, skipped loading, symbol load information, modules optimize. Oh, debugger option, just my code. Is that the problem? I think you have to turn that off. Could be wrong. You'll note it's now going and pulling symbol information. I wonder if that was the issue. With that turned on, it wasn't intentionally pulling symbol information and never trying to resolve. A little surprised when you manually load the symbols, the debugger doesn't just pick those up. I'm also imagining that right about now, yeah, this symbol cache is getting populated. So you will note very rapidly this is going to populate a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to give this a second to roll. Cool. Okay, so it did load, and it shows the symbol load information now. So now, let me step into the source code, please. So step, app initialize, F11. That's what we are looking for. Download source and continue debugging. Boom. Don't care. VT spec CS. Oh, so this is that untracked sources. This was that warning that it grabbed. Okay, so I need to wait, authenticate. That is confusing to me. But there we go. We are now stepping in. Okay, so I need to figure out. Yeah, so you'll note this is now inside of, if we look where this folder is, I'm now stepping through the source server. Whew, that was hard. Okay, so I just needed to turn that stuff on. You'll also note that there is a little bit of a disjoint. The debugging doesn't always behave exactly as you expect, simply because this was compiled with optimizations turned on. So in debug mode, it puts in no ops symbols at various points. Like, for example, these opening curly braces will get no ops, just so that there is an IL instruction to link back to a source code point. That way you can set breakpoints at all of those spots. However, those extra IL codes are no ops. They don't do anything. And so they're useful for debugging, but when you compile in release mode, those types of things get optimized away. So your the places where your execution pointer will stop are fewer, and so it can look a little weird in release mode. So just to be aware of that. Okay, so I think SourceLink is mostly working. I just have to address those warnings that are accurately being thrown on the package. That's fine. Okay, so I'm happy about that. Don't need you. Go away. Okay, I want to go back over to here and figure out why my build failed, because I would like to get this thing in with an icon. Let's see here. This seems connection to chocolatey failed. Rerun jobs. I'm going to go with that's not a real failure. That's probably intermittent network or something. So this should merge. This should then close out that option. I think the next thing I really want to get going is clean up the API and get all the exceptions squared away. But I do want to push this into a 1.0 release. So I will probably be poking at this over the next week. I'm hoping to be done with the 1.0 release, get it merged into the material design. And then in terms of the material design project, I'm getting ready to kick the next release. The thing is, it's really going to be this Stefano show. He has been submitting a huge number of pull requests. And so, Stefano, if you're watching this, thank you. Thank you. This is awesome work. Basically going through and comparing the latest version of the material design spec to what's in the library and addressing deficiencies, for lack of a better word. Like, that's really what it comes down to, is the material design spec from Google has been updated several times, and this library, it is really hard to keep track of all of the changes. And so if people don't point them out, oftentimes I will miss them. And he has been going through and tracking them. So I want to go through and take a look at this. I have a hunch I know what is causing this bug. But I want to take a crack at it and see. So we will see how that goes. So with that, I think I am probably going to sign off for the night. Thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. Thank you everyone named Robert. It was fun. Appreciate the questions. So with that, I think I'm going to say thank you everyone for tuning in. Happy coding. We'll see everyone next week.